This is News 13 with Tony Cedrone.
Good evening, I'm Tony Cedrone. I'm live in Lusk, where massive flooding has occurred overnight, sending dozens of people seeking shelter. Take a look right now. The extent of the damage has flooded many businesses and homes, including this Highway 85 overpass that collapsed around 3 a.m. this morning. It's still the state's case as they continue to call several more witnesses to the stand this afternoon, including some of Baldwin's friends who were there with him the night of the crime. I also spoke with Bernard's family members, his wife and 3 daughters, who told me if there's one thing they want people to remember about Bernard Bickles, it's that he was a true hero. Well, Cody, it's now Friday, and trial was originally scheduled to wrap up today with a verdict on John Knospler's second-degree murder charge. I suited up along with Adams as he took me through the basics. So right now I'm surrounded by 20 beehives. Each hive can hold up to 80,000 honeybees, and on a good year, they can produce up to 100 pounds of honey each. Now this screen, it's not just the biggest in Casper, it's the biggest in the entire state of Wyoming, weighing in at 60 feet wide and 30 feet high. Now in a recent survey conducted for the Red Cross, 80% of Americans said that they could swim. But only 56% of them could actually perform the basic functions that could save their life. I'm at an apiary surrounded by 20 beehives to find out what exactly goes into taking care of honeybees. We find out what your biggest pet peeves are when driving in the snow and why it might be a good idea to invest in one of these. Breaking news this afternoon, an officer-involved shooting took place last night in Converse County around 12:30 a.m. Sheriff Clint Becker says the deputy is okay, but the suspect has died. After 3 hours of deliberation, the verdict is in for Jeremiah Shull. He's found guilty of first-degree murder in the death of Jacob Willenbrecht. Today, there's added security in the U.S. Capitol building after an incident this morning at the Navy Yard sends them into a lockdown. Today was Valentine's Day. I got to know, Josh, were you a ladies' man in high school? Because you strike me as a ladies' man. One of the most popular sneakers in American culture, the Chuck Taylor, just got an upgrade for consumers. Converse unveiled a new version of the 98-year-old shoe yesterday. Coming up on News 13 at noon, Lauren Wells takes one final look at your weekend weather forecast, and later, 3 little pigs go wee 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 all the way to the supermarket. Hopefully they stayed away from the bacon. Chris Poe is an Iraq veteran who witnessed a house fire in Casper Saturday afternoon.
It was all up the back side of the house. The flames were just loud, of course hot.
Chris was driving with his family 4 blocks away when he saw smoke coming from the roof of this house, and instincts told him to rush here and immediately take action.
So I went up the front steps, went inside, checked upstairs to see if anybody was up there. It was pretty smoky.
The children's father was at the store getting them breakfast when the fire broke out.
When I pulled up, I ran up to the door. I was running up and somebody just said, "Your kids are already out, your kids are already out." And so I went over and found my kids and made sure they're okay.
I remember looking over at the tree and seeing the dad and the 2 kids hugging each other. That was great.
Ian says he's extremely appreciative of Chris's actions that day.
I'd really like to say thank you for what you did to help my children and to put yourself at risk to help somebody you've never met, a family you don't know.
About 110 firefighters and trained volunteers from across the state are working day and night to contain what they're calling the West Range wildfire.
I see the smoke coming up. I called 911 and asked them if they knew they had by the fire pit, and they said yes, they did. It didn't look too bad at the time, but next thing I know, it took off like a Roman candle.
Firefighters say wildfires like this one typically die down overnight, but this grew to almost twice its size and even wound up in some people's backyards.
We did pack some of our belongings, some of our most valuable stuff, computers, pictures, unreplaceable items, had them in the car and the truck in case we had to make a fast getaway.
Firefighters set up water hoses and sprinklers to keep houses and buildings at a safe distance from the flames. But Armstrong says he wanted to take measures into his own hands.
I put all my sprinklers on and hoses on yesterday, started at noon, and started watering everything around the house as far as I could reach and soaking everything down just in case, getting everything good and wet.
Last February, Shelley's husband Jim was diagnosed with an inoperable brain tumor.
My husband was dealing with brain cancer. He had a glioblastoma. It was an uphill climb the diagnosis wasn't good.
Jim wanted to make Valentine's Day special for his wife, Shelley, but he knew his days were limited. So he came to this flower shop to set up a plan so that Shelley would always remember how much Jim loved her on Valentine's Day.
Every Valentine's Day, just some of her favorite flowers, assorted roses, like you were saying, mixed colors, things like that, every day until she dies.
The flowers were delivered 2 days before Valentine's Day. And when Shelley first saw the flowers were from Jim, she was speechless.
I thought the kids sent the flowers.
She called the other day. We all started almost bawling, so it was really touching just to hear the story and to know that he had done that for her. Seems like something that only happens in the movies or that you hear about.
This is one Valentine's Day Shelley says she'll always remember.
It was true love, and you just don't find that very often. You know, the fairy tale romance, the knight in shining armor, you just don't find that.
This is News 13 with Tony Cedrone.